As AV receiver manufacturers introduced 8K and HDMI 2.1 support units to the market in 2020, the year was somewhat significant for them. Although the HDMI 2.1 bug was found soon after, many consumers wondered if the purchase was worthwhile due to the major headaches caused by it. A number of new features were added with HDMI 2.1, including 8K pass-through, 4K at 120 frames per second, HDR10+, LVRR, QMS, and QFT. As for the AVR X4700H specifically, the receiver comes with 9.2 channels of amplification with 125 watts of power in total. As well, makes the usual virtual and up-using technologies such as Dolby Surround, DTS Neural X, Dolby Atmos Height Virtualization, and DTS Virtual X. The unit supports Dolby Atmos, DTS-X, or O3D, and a Max Enhanced, and uses an Odyssey Multi-Q XT32 auto-calibration system, high-resolution audio, EOS technology, AirPlay 2, voice control, custom integration, bi-amping, multi-room zones, Bluetooth audio transmission, preamplifier mode, and HDMI upscaling. Auro 3D and a Max Enhanced are both supported by the receiver, along with the usual Dolby Atmos and DTS-X object-oriented audio tracks. There is not much content available for the last two, but it is always good to have more, which adds more value to the package. Additionally, we are provided with virtual technology and upmixing features to meet all needs and specific room configurations. Among the upmixing technologies, we find the usual Dolby Surround and DTS Neural X. These technologies upconvert stereo and legacy mixes in order to take advantage of all your speakers. As for virtual tech, Dolby Atmos Height Virtualization and DTS Virtual X are capable of creating sounds that originate from virtual speakers created around your room where no physical speakers are present. The sound is often overprocessed, something we've never been very fond of. Virtual speakers are not as good or accurate as physical speakers and are very much room dependent. With 9 channels of built-in amplification, the X4700H can output 125 watts of power per channel. Keep in mind, however, that is only for 2 channels, so this number drops substantially when all 9 channels are active. If you want to go all the way to 11 channels, you need an external amp to drive the last 2 channels. With the built-in amplifiers, you can go all the way for a 5.2, 4-channel audio setup with 4 dedicated overhead speakers for maximum immersion. A single subwoofer and 4 height speakers were placed at the front and back of our viewing area for the 5.1/4 setup we used for our test. The recently released 4K UHD version of Zack Snyder's Justice League came with a totally floor-flooring Dolby Atmos mix for our testing. In addition to everything you might expect from a movie of this kind, Snyder's version surpasses the original theatrical cut in every conceivable way. Even if the original was good, it had no trouble with any scene we chose to play, so the X4700H is right at home here. Whether the movie was mostly dialogue-driven or full-on action, Denon handled everything wonderfully. The soundstage in the front had great authority and punch, with excellent separation between the front channels. Dialogue was kept at the center, and there was no overlap with the rest of the sound effects. The depth and transparency of the sound were excellent, filling the space between us and the TV with plenty of sound information. Surround acoustics were equally good, with the paradements flying all around. Panning effects were extremely intense and precise, while various effects like projectiles crossed the various channels without any delay or loss of information. During the ancient battle, the surround channels provided the necessary magnitude to the scene with nice extension both in the sides and behind us. Even though the Atmos effects weren't quite as in your face as the rest of the channels, they did add a lively upper layer to the immersion bubble. As a result, the panning sounds were even more detailed since there were 4 height channels to distinguish between the front and rear height effects. The bass activity was also exceptional, with the initial showdown between Steppenwolf and the Amazons giving us a good sense of what was to come. Explosions, debris, gunfire, and low-end activity were spot on and very alive and kicking. In terms of maximum volume, the Denon had plenty of juice, and we did max it out in our test room. For a small or medium-sized room, we would say it should be enough, but it depends on a lot of factors. We couldn't resist the urge and try some Lord of the Rings goodness, while we popped the Return of the King disc in our Panasonic player and skipped forward to the Siege of Minas Tirith. What can be said about such an incredible scene? The Denon managed to portray the large-scale battle with great skill and we were very satisfied with its performance. The dynamics were great, the soundstage expanded impressively, and the surround and Atmos effects enhanced the immersion by tenfold. If you are an avid movie fan, you can't go wrong with such a receiver as it adds so much to the overall experience that would otherwise feel flat and uninspiring. High-resolution audio has become the standard in these receivers, so apart from MP3, WMA, and NOC, the unit can also play back FLAC, ALAC, and WAV files at 192K HC at 24-bit, as well as DSD at 2.8 MHz and 5.6 MHz. This is very similar to the X3700H, but with one small difference. AL32 processing is also included on the AVR X4700H. For those who don't know what alpha processing is, it was the world's first technical formula for reproducing 16-bit data in 20-bit quality. By interpolating the data recorded on the original CD, the alpha processor results in a waveform that is much closer to the digital signals recorded on CD. In order to support 192K HC sampling frequency, Denon has further developed its proprietary AL32 processing, which reproduces analog waveforms. By suppressing quantization noise associated with DA conversion, AL32 processing brings out all the delicate nuances of the music with optimum clarity. The X4700H last part of our test was music, so we switched to 2 channels and got some tunes to see what it can do. For this purpose, we used the front USB to playback some favorite songs in FLAC format for best sound quality. Clearly, if you pair the Denon with good quality speakers, it will show its full potential. It was clear that each music instrument was distinct, the front was very transparent, and the panning stereo effects were perfectly rendered. The mid-range didn't exhibit any abnormal behavior, with the unit keeping everything under control, while the high-end had the energy and vigor required without becoming too overbearing. With the AV receiver, we tried a variety of genres, and we were very pleased with how it handled each song. The Denon showcased its integrity throughout the entire session, more delicate at times than aggressive at others. The music never overdid it and never lost control, keeping all the elements in check and performing at their best. The vocals had the necessary emotional impact without tiring you, while the bass would dig deep with authority and power without sounding boomy or distortion. As we conclude this section, we can say that the AVR X4700H will deliver the typical Denon performance we have become accustomed to over the past few years. Denon knows its craft, and the X4700H continues this tradition, making this unit a good choice if you want a solution that works equally well in movies as well as music. There are certainly going to be a few shortcomings, but we can assure you that you won't be disappointed. The AVR X4700H is the second 9.2 channels AV receiver in Denon's arsenal, and to be honest, it finds itself in a tough spot not because it isn't good, but because it faces a lot of competition internally from its smaller brother, the AVR X3700H. A number of people have asked me which one to choose and whether the X4700H is worthwhile. First of all, to decide if the product is worthwhile, you should know what it offers, and while we did mention all of them in our review, let's list them all here in order to make it easier to compare them. In addition to Auro 3D and L32 processing, the X4700H provides 20 watts more power to each channel for an extra cost. In addition, you get an extra HDMI port, a second trigger port, a composite video output, as well as upscaling from analog to HDMI and Zone 3 support as extras. All the above come in addition to what is already there in the X3700H, including 9.2 channels of built-in amplification with 11.2 channels processing, HDMI 2.1 support with all its new game-centric features, as well as a wealth of online and streaming features. The X4700H is one of the most feature-rich units in its class. We were completely satisfied with how it performed in our movie testing, also in our music session, as you would expect from a Denon product when it comes to audio quality. One of the downsides is the HDMI 2.1 bug, which will plague all 2020 AV receivers. In terms of a solution to the problem, the Sound United solution with the SPK6 118 HDMI adapter makes things a little better. In addition, those with multiple next-generation gaming consoles may have a problem with one HDMI 2.1, as well as offering a free Odyssey Mult EQ editor app, at least for the more expensive models. Denon should offer a backlit remote, which is unacceptable for such high-profile units. AV receivers like the Denon AVR X4700H offer a lot of value due to the wide range of features packed into them. After mentioning all the extras you get with the X3700H, you can decide for yourself whether it is worth it or not. To be honest, it all depends on whether these extras are important for your situation. However, in terms of audio performance, this unit is more than capable of delivering a fantastic surround experience that is a hallmark of Denon products. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please like it if you did. If you're new here, click the subscribe button. Wishing you all the best until the next video.